And I'm in the studio here with Dominic King and Jennie Fenton today. So we might call it the Council Report or the Mayor's Report with Dominic and Jennie. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning, Leo.
Good morning, Leo.
Now, what's the topic of the day, do you think?
Let me guess. Look, I think it's very clear that there was a very big happening in town, and one that was not pretty in anyone's words. So, well, certainly, I think that's probably what we should have a chat about this morning.
Yes, everybody be listening to. I guess the big question is, okay, where do we go from here? And I think I know the answer, but I better let you guys tell us where we go from here with Church Street.
Yeah, well, there's been already a lot of work done on what will happen next, which, the commonly bandied around figure is that 1,000 different people put in submissions about what they wanted to see in the main street after the trees were gone. And, there's actually, I think it's become clear from this process how many people didn't really either get a chance to engage with that or for some reason they missed it, and people are still coming up with ideas, and I think that's amazing and important, and we need to make room to do that, to take on those suggestions and what's important to people in the new space, and we need to do it quite quickly because the grant that's funding all those works has a time limit, so we're kind of in crunch time around any new ideas, but the really important decisions are around what trees go in, and I've been involved in that committee of council with community members that will be putting up a list, which should be any day now, that the community can comment on and vote on, and also add other suggestions that we might have missed. So that's really exciting because all of the committee have agreed that those replacement trees really need to be native, and there's some species on that list that are locally native, and I think that's an amazing opportunity to honour the biodiversity of our valley in a really public way in the middle of town.
I think it's fantastic, yes.
Yeah, I think it's a really important step. Yeah. And the other thing is just looking at how that space works in terms of the opportunities around art and identifying who our community is, and also the opportunity to put up signage around the history. Not just the history of the trees, the trees that have just been removed or are being removed, but the history of our community on many fronts, and to really acknowledge that our town's been built in a space that has displaced Aboriginal people over the last 100 years, and to acknowledge that the next 100 years are a different opportunity around our relationship with Aboriginal people. And I'm sort of well known as a disability advocate due to my family situation, and when speaking with one of our local Aboriginal people this morning about that place, it just became really clear how common the experience of exclusion is for people, no matter what group you belong to. If you've been excluded, you have been excluded, and people with disabilities and Aboriginal people share a lot of that history of exclusion from the town centre, and so that's the other group that I think needs to be majorly represented in the town centre, and by having a more accessible space, I think we're going to see some people we haven't seen for a really long time in our community. I think that's going to be amazing.
Right, indeed, and I was thinking too how appropriate it would be, since we're in a subtropical area with lots of wonderful native forest, to have some native rainforest trees in the centre of town as well. I think that would be a nice idea, wouldn't it?
I think that's probably one of the keys, Leo, and we've got to look at the logistics of that, because we certainly want to be putting mature trees in, and we've got to be able to get that stock, and look, we've got a lot of work to do, and it's not just the physical stuff. I think there's a lot of emotional stuff that we need to deal with as well, and it was emotional for all of us people, and we're certainly not detached from that. I mean, we've been affected in different ways, and our family has, and the thing that I would like to remind people is that we made a decision as councillors on the evidence that we were given and the facts that we were giving, and it was never black and white, it was never good or bad, but it was the best decision that we made on the time, and I stick by that, and it was a sad time, But sometimes, you know, the positions that we're in, we have to make decisions that are not going to please everyone, but we have to make decisions based on what's good for everyone, and what's good, you know, what's for the greater good, and you know, the history of what those trees represent, you know, and all those memories people have are totally respected by me. But you know, it was time for them to go. If we wanted to get, you know, a central area in Bellingen that everyone could get to, that would have more shade, that would have more seating, that would be much more pedestrian friendly, then this was the step we had to take, and we didn't take that lightly. And it's sort of sad for me that, you know, that it has been, that it got to the stages that it did in some ways, and you know, we certainly did it because we believed it was right. There was, you know, there's no agendas or anything like that, and you know, it's been very sad for me to see the impact on my other councillors, and particularly Jennie, you know, who really put herself out there and brought her family in, and she did that because she knew how important this was to them. And you know, to then see people, you know, use that as some way to attack her has been really, really sad for me. And you know, I hope that is the last time I see that in this community. And you know, people need to come and talk to us, and we have definitely made ourselves available for people to talk to on many fronts, in many occasions, whether it's walking up the street, or it's, you know, the times that we sit in the markets, or it's the times that we're in meetings, or it's the times that we go to community forums, or whatever it is. We are out there. And for people to then say we don't listen and we don't care and stuff, that's probably hurtful, because we are doing, in many ways, a thankless job. And we're trying to make the decisions that we feel are the best for the community, and that's what we do. There's no vindictive, or, I mean, I can't even think what, you know, what people think why we did it, because we want to upset everyone. I mean, it's so... That's been a big ride for me, but it's also been a big education for me. And you know, maybe we didn't do some things right, and maybe we can do that better. But we also need the community to come along and make sure that they're informing us on their views, not coming to us after the event and saying, oh, we're not happy that you did that. I mean, you know, we need to, as a community, if we're going to be resilient, we need to come together. We need to share the load of what the vision is, and we need people to come to us with ideas about stuff. Don't, you know, come to us a week before the trees are cutting down and saying, oh, you could save them by doing this, and don't produce any evidence and expect us to take that on board, because it's just not practical.
Yeah, indeed. And to be fair, really, to you guys, I mean, these were decisions that were made long before you came along anyway. So a lot of the criticisms, I think, directed at a council that no longer exists, and you guys have been thrown the ball and had to do with it what you could.
Well, I think that the decision that was made in 2010 and 11 to remove the trees was a long time ago, but I remember it very clearly. I remember the how controversial that was in the media at the time, and I remember how council communicated about that. But even though that was a long time ago, the decision about starting the main street works has kind of followed on from that. That was the beginning of that, really, and so we certainly didn't just assume that was all okie dokie. We certainly looked back and thought about the trees and asked those questions of staff: have things got better? Have things stayed the same? And no, the answer is they had gotten worse, and that's quite evident when you use the streets. So it has been a really a sad but necessary change that's happened, and what we've seen is a whole lot of people who have reacted to that change in a big way. There's been grief, and there's been also a kind of a backlash from a small group of people about disability in a way, and that's been really challenging for me to watch. But I think that's also a positive sign in the sense that all civil rights movements have experienced backlash where people react negatively to someone asserting their right to be part of community, and that's kind of what's happened with, thankfully, a really small part of the community, but it has definitely been part of the community.
Yes, indeed. So why don't we look at where we go in Church Street, how Church Street is going to be much better, or that section of obviously, is much better than what it was before, and how the town will be better than it was before. Any discussion yet as to actually what species will be put in their place?
Yeah, there's a species list about to go out for comment, and people will be able to add to that as well if we've missed something. But
Bellingen Create.
Yeah, on Bellingen, on create.bellingen.newsouthwales.gov.au, and that's council's new portal for kind of engaging people online. But you can also just write to council, call council as well if you've got great ideas. But yeah, I feel really excited about the list because it does include some species that aren't just natives, they're local natives, and I think that's the really exciting opportunity. And there's about 5 times more trees going in than there has been. So what we'll see is trees replacing the ones that have gone, but we'll also see new trees in new garden beds and that kind of traffic calming where you build gardens out into roads so that cars slow down and there's garden space. So I think it'll be different, and it will be, in a lot of ways, it will be a lot more beautiful and a lot more people friendly. It'll
actually be a greener Bellingen, I guess, in both literally with more trees, and in the sense of using trees which are endemic to the area, rather than I won't call them weeds, but trees that actually belong in this area. Would be a great idea, I think. Yeah.
And it's an opportunity for a new history as well, and and a new way of doing. And I think the stuff that Jen spoke about inclusion, for people with a disability, and also, for our ageing population, and particularly for our Indigenous culture. And I mean, that is something that we need to see a lot of, and we're having those conversations, and we have been the whole time, talking to people like Lisa Kelly about what we can do better, and we've got a lot to learn and a long way to go, but I would like to also say, Leo, that this is one thing. We've got a whole lot of things that we want to see done better in this Shire, and we are working hard on bringing that together, and that's doing things like protecting the headwaters of our rivers, and making sure that we protect our biggest assets. It's about looking at intensive agriculture and what we can do around that. It's about looking at models of affordable housing that we can try and bring into the Shire, and we're all working tirelessly around that stuff, and many other issues. And this has been a really divisive issue, but we know what our goals are, and we are going to be making sure that we bring everyone along with us, and we're in a great position to work with staff in council to get some of that stuff going, and I truly believe that we have the potential to be a really an even more amazing place than what we are. And I think this is just a blip in history, and maybe it's a wake-up call for all of us about getting involved in your own community, and maybe the more people that we have doing stuff, the better. The more people that bring us ideas about how we can do things better, the better we are at doing what we do. And it's an opportunity for us. And look, I'm still a bit shaken, and I know we all are, and it's a bit sad. It's like we've just had a natural disaster through the town. It's that very same feel of people sort of milling around and talking to each other about stuff, and we just need to move on from it, and I'd like to take the opportunity to thank all the people that have come up and spoken to me, whether they were for the trees or against the trees in the last couple of days, and shown their support and understanding about what we had to do, and that it wasn't an easy decision. And so I'd like to thank those people as well, and that's the stuff that has made me get up and know that we're in the right space. I'm totally not, and never ever thought that we are totally 100% correct in what we do, but we do the best job we can do, and that's all we can ask is for people to understand that, and also have an input on what we're doing, and positive stuff's much better received, than telling us what we do wrong all the time, because we're just 3 Greens councillors, and the other councillors for that matter. We're all just people that are in the community, come from different areas and different life experiences, and and have families in this town that get affected by all the stuff that goes on too. And we're just trying to do our best job. And if we want, people to stand up and run for local government, there's got to be, there's got to be a recognition by the community that it is a tough gig. And it's probably the toughest gig I've ever had. So,
yes, indeed.
A bit of understanding from everyone's good. And sure, you can disagree with me, but you need to take the opportunity to listen to what I have to say rather than spread rumours around about what I don't do. And
Yeah, well, I applaud your notion about consultation with the council and being open to discussing things. Hopefully, with future issues, there'll be a bit more time for people to put things in. But I'd like to see too the passion that went into people trying to save the trees, if that is also going to go into saving the headwaters of the Kalang and protecting our waterways from overuse, too much chemicals and things like that. That would be great, and so that we can all be seen to be acting together as a community for the benefit of the whole community.
And we've got, we know as councillors sitting in there, we've got many battles ahead. Financial, social, and environmental, and it's a changing world, and there's going to be a lot more fights for us to have out there, and we're trying to get as much information as we can about how we deal with that. But it's a big challenge. I mean, all that stuff around maintaining what we've got and maintaining the harmony in the community is a job that involves everyone. And so look, I thanks for the opportunity to have this chat with you, and I'd just like to also pay a lot of respect to my other councillors that have all stuck by me. All the councillors in there and the staff have all said, hey, chin up, we've got to move on, and that's hopefully where we're going to get soon.
Indeed, you've got a huge job ahead of you, all of you, and I like the idea that if people can feel free to comment and give suggestions and whatever to council at any time, I think that's a great move.
So in addition to people feeling free to comment and think about things, people need to feel free and totally inspired to actually make stuff happen too, because council's just one player in this community, and an example that's been gaining a lot of momentum recently has been the Waste Not Bellingen group, which is just a collective of unrelated people who are concerned about waste. Particularly, it's come around plastic bag use, which is a huge contribution to landfill. And I think the really exciting thing about that is different people have brought their different project ideas under that umbrella, including someone's making boomerang bags, which are a returnable cloth bag that you can use in any of the shops in town, and and other people are doing different things around banning plastic bags or reducing plastic bag use and whatever. But it sort of ties in with the work that council does around waste, which is the reality for our council is we don't have any landfill left. We're sending our landfill off out of our country, to co-ops, and then they're running quite low as well. And I think that mutual responsibility between council and governments and communities is something we really need to do more of. And we were just recently yesterday, the Urunga antimony site was officially opened by Minister Toole, and most of the councillors went down to see that. And I do have a declaration there that my husband was the project manager on that rehabilitation job. But aside from that, turning a horrendous legacy from mining into a beautiful wetland. It's so biodiverse. You walk around there, it's utterly stunning place, and the community are using it all the time. And they've used plastic bags, a plastic bag recycled product as the decking for that new boardwalk. I think, just that collaboration and thinking about innovation and thinking about future generations and working together, we're demonstrating that across our Shire all the time in so many ways, and we need to spend a bit less time thinking about what we're not doing or what we're not doing well, and remembering all the great stuff we're doing too, and remembering to work together well and care for each other, because that's what we're known for. That's what this community's known for.
Yes, and in the future, because we've got a wonderful opportunity to to show some leadership and be an example of what a community can do for its benefit, you know. Well, we're running out of time a little bit, but I'd like to thank you both. I know you've got such a difficult job, but thanks for coming in and talking to us. That's one way, of course, of talking to the whole community via our own community radio station.
Yes,
And,
everyone should listen to 2BBB.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Leo. It's actually really nice for us to come in here and talk to you because, you know, it's really healing for me as well to sort of be able to get stuff off and have those chats with you.
Yes,
And
indeed.
So, thank you.
Just one final question. How soon can we look forward to seeing some more greenery in Church Street? Like, is there a time frame for actually getting some more trees in there?
I think there's a fair bit of mess that has to happen first, but I
Yes.
think they'll do it corner by corner.
Right.
And no, I don't have a sense of that, sorry. But I know also the other area is the cenotaph, which will have a park around it. And that, I was certainly conscious of that standing there on Anzac Day, thinking how different that space is going to be next April 25th. It's going to be a totally different space. So yeah, it's all the bulk of those works is due to happen before the end of the financial year. So hold your hats because there's going to be a lot of mess, and we really need to make sure we're supporting those businesses that are impacted. Like drink more coffee than you would normally at those places, because some of those places are really vulnerable to short-term closures. So that's the big message in the mess, is to look after the little guys through that. Yeah,
that's a very good point too. Well, thank you again both for coming in, Dominic King and Jennie Fenton, and we'll talk again in a couple of weeks. We'll have regular conversations, of course, to let people know what's happening. And thanks again.
Cheers.
Thank you.